Geiger, please raise your right hand to be sworn, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly for the jurors. You may examine the record.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you. Please say your name and spell your name.
My name is James Geiger, Geiger.
Sir, where do you live?
I live in Tallahassee.
How long have you lived at that residence?
It's getting pretty close to 50 years now, I think 48 or 49.
All right. I want to take you back to July 18th of 2024. Now I've got an ad on me. Do you recall something unusual that happened that day? I'm sorry, I said 2024. 2014, sir. You know what case we're here about. Do you remember what happened on that date?
Yes, I do.
All right. Could you please tell our jurors how something unusual first got your attention?
It was a Friday morning, about 10:30. My wife and I were sitting in our living room looking out towards Trescott Drive, out to the street. And as we were sitting there, we were doing something with our iPads, and we heard a noise, a popping, loud sound, bang sound, and we immediately got up and walked to the front. We have a big picture window. Walked up to see if we could determine what had happened and where it had come from. We weren't sure it was to the right or to the left. And,
all right, let me pause you right there and show you a couple photographs that I have as marked as states 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Do you recognize these photographs, sir?
Yes, I do.
Are these fair and accurate photographs of your residence at that time, as well as the view from the window you've described?
Yes, it's true.
Judge, at this time I'd ask to admit 1 through 3 and publish.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States 1 through 3 are admitted.
If we could publish states 1, please. All right, sir, so if you could just explain, give me that pointer, please, what we're looking at in this photo, and I've got a pointer here, if that's of any assistance to you. Push the middle button, you get a red dot. You don't have to use it. Oh, if you are going to use it, though, use it on the big screen, please, sir. All right, so just describe what we're looking at in this photo, states 1.
This is taken from Trescott Drive. The house on the right is my house, and the house on the left was Danny's house.
Okay, and the bay window that you've described, is that what is pictured in this portion of the photo right here? Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's correct.
Publish states 2, please. Sir, is this the view from that window?
Yes,
All right.
this is what I saw as I looked out.
Okay, and the driveway that we can see there on the right side of the window, is that Dan Markel's driveway?
Yes, it is.
All right, so you've described that something got your attention. Can we have states 3, please?
Well, as I mentioned, I wasn't sure where the noise had come from, and I looked to the left and to the right, and as I looked to the right, there was a car that was rapidly backing out of the driveway and immediately headed down in that direction towards Benton Road. It caught my attention because it seemed to be going so fast. And I noticed what it looked like and that caught my attention, although quite frankly it was out of the corner of my eye. It appeared to be a Prius, a light-colored Prius, maybe silver or white.
Okay. So something got your attention. What was that?
Well, that was what got my attention, and then...
Was the vehicle itself?
Excuse me?
Was the vehicle itself or some noise preceded you seeing the vehicle?
Well, initially we had heard this loud noise, which we weren't exactly sure it was. It could have been a gunshot. We weren't sure. And then when I saw the car back out, that prompted me then to walk next door. There had been in the neighborhood a few break-ins, burglaries, and my first thought was that somebody was trying to break into the Markel house. And so I went out the front door and walked across over to Danny's house to see if anything had been damaged, maybe tried to be broken into the garage or something.
Yes, sir. When you looked out, you said you saw the car back out and then exit toward Benton Road. Would that be going this direction to the right of the photograph or toward the left of the photograph?
It would be towards the right.
Okay, so out this way. And you said you walked over there just to sort of look around, make sure everything was okay. What did you see?
As I approached his garage, I noticed that the garage door was open, his car was inside, and the motor was running. And so I thought then, well, I guess so much for a burglary. I don't think that's happened if Danny's there. So I turned around and walked back to my house.
Okay. What happened next?
After that, I can't tell you why, but I just stood at my front window and looked out and waited for a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4, up to 5. And for some reason, it just didn't quite seem right. Danny hadn't backed out, and I thought by this time he should have backed out of his driveway, and he didn't. And so I said to my wife, I think something just seems wrong. I'm going to walk back over. And so I did that.
All right. And what did you see when you got over there?
Excuse me?
What did you see when you got over there the second time?
Well, when I went back the second time, I noticed that the garage door was still up, the car was still running, and this time I thought, maybe I better walk on into the garage. He's probably in the driver's seat. He's probably on a cell phone talking, but I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
so I walked into the actual driveway then, and I saw that the window, the driver's side window, had been shattered, and I stepped on glass at that same time. As I looked inside, I saw a bloody head, and the head was slowly moving back and forth, rolling back and forth, left to right. And I hollered immediately, "Danny, what happened?" And I didn't get any response other than the head rolling, and so I hollered again, Danny, what's happened?" Still nothing. And at that point, I knew that I had to get the emergency medical team there as quickly as I could. I reached into my pocket to pull out my cell phone, which is where I normally keep it, and it wasn't there. And I thought, gee, I've left it back on the couch at the house. And so I quickly dashed back to the house, got the phone, and called 911.
How many minutes do you estimate elapsed between the time you saw the Prius backing out, or really I should say the time you heard the loud bang, to the time that you were able to reach 911?
Less than 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes, somewhere in there, I would say.
I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as State's Exhibits 4, and then I also have 6 and 7. This is number 4, and I'll draw your attention to some initials on number 4, and then also 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
All right, Judge, at this time I'd ask to move into evidence 6 and 7.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 6 and 7 are admitted.
Publish State 6, please.
You may.
Sir, is this how the vehicle was positioned when you went over there and found Mr. Markel so badly injured?
Yes, that looks correct.
Publish State 7, please. Was the doors to the vehicle are open in this photograph? Were they open or closed when you went over?
No, they were all closed.
Okay, closed, and the only window that was damaged was that the driver's side window?
That's the only one I saw. That's if there were some others, I didn't look at any other windows. I just simply saw the driver's side that was completely shattered.
All right, yes, sir. And State's Exhibit 4, is this consistent with the type of vehicle that you observed in the driveway backing out that day?
Yes, it was, although I didn't quite see that angle.
Okay. Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce States 4.
Objection to States 4.
No objection.
Admitted at this time.
All right, and you described it as a light-colored Prius. You weren't exactly sure of the color, maybe white, maybe silver, right?
Yeah, silver came to mind first, I guess, but certainly a light-colored vehicle.
I'm going to approach and show you State's Exhibit 5. Recognize States 5?
Yes,
Is that Mr. Markel?
yes, it is.
All right, may I introduce States 5 here?
No objection. No, sir.
States 5 is admitted.
Publishing States 5. What did you know about Mr. Markel?
Well, this occurred in 2014, and Danny and Wendi were newlyweds and had moved in about 5 years earlier than that. They moved next door. We were not particularly close to either one. We would see them occasionally out on the street. The memorable thing, and the other neighbors would tell you, is that when they first moved in, they had a housewarming event, and they invited all the neighbors in, and we attended it. That was our first time to see them and visit them. They seemed like a nice young couple, and but after that, we weren't particularly close.
Did they have a couple little children living there?
Well, when they first moved there, they didn't, but after a year or two, they had a first child, and then later a second child.
All right, and at the time that Mr. Markel was shot, had his wife, Wendi, moved out? Had they separated?
Yeah, we had understood that they were going through a divorce, and Wendi had left, and after that, we rarely saw Danny, and I don't think we ever saw the kids either, but
Were you familiar with Mr. Markel's profession?
yes, I knew that he was an attorney. Both of them were, and they were connected with the FSU Law School, I believe, but I didn't know their exact positions there.
Yes, sir. Publish 4 again, please. Are you able to tell the jurors anything about the occupants of this vehicle on that day?
No, I only saw it just briefly, and to notice what kind of car it was. I couldn't tell you who was inside. The windows were dark as far as I could see. I didn't even know if it was 2-door or 4-door. I just didn't see anything like that.
During the time that you were present at the scene of the shooting, did Mr. Markel ever regain consciousness or ever say anything that you heard?
No, I never heard him say anything. The only notion was that his head kept rolling back and forth during the 911 call, which it took forever to try to get the emergency vehicle there, the emergency medical team. They would occasionally ask if he was still breathing. And I would walk back up into the garage, and his head was moving still. And I said, well, his head's moving. So I assume he's still breathing.
Yes, sir. Have you had an opportunity to review that recorded call that you made to 911 that day?
Yes, I have.
All right. And was it a fair and accurate recording of that call?
Yes.
All right, Judge, at this time I'd ask to move into evidence States 88.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 88 is admitted.
May I publish?
Go ahead.
What's your emergency?
It's right next door at my house, which is 2122 Trescott Drive.
Can you repeat that for verification?
2122 Trescott Drive, the T.
Okay, the phone number you're calling from?
I'm calling from 850-212.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We heard a loud bang and a car pulled away from next door. I came over and looked in, the garage door was up. And I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out. And I came back over, and his driver's side window was shattered, and he's battered, and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him, or if he shot himself, or what. I don't know.
And it was at this location, correct?
Right next door. I'll give you mine. I don't know his address. It's next door.
Okay.
He didn't send an ambulance in a hurry. EMG. He's still alive. He's moving.
Okay. What's going on with it?
I don't know. The driver's side window is all bashed in. He's inside. The car is running, and he's got blood all over his head. He's not responding to me. That number, by the way, is 2116. 2116.
All right, that's the first few minutes of a 14-minute call. Is that how long it took them to get somebody to you?
Seemed to me a lot longer,
Seemed like 14 hours, didn't it?
long time.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination for Mr. Geiger.
No question, Your Honor.
Mr. Geiger, you may step down, sir. Is he released from his subpoena? Will anyone need to recall him for any purpose?
He's released, Your Honor.
Have a good day, sir.
What if I told you that intelligence could become the perfect disguise? That words spoken in a courtroom could reveal more through what isn't said than what is. That a family's love could transform into something unrecognizable? On July 18, 2014, a Harvard-educated law professor was shot twice in the head while sitting in his garage. What followed wasn't just a murder investigation. It was the unraveling of a family's carefully constructed narrative, told through courtroom testimony, emotional performances, and a joke that somehow never stopped echoing. This is the story of Wendi Adelson, not the defendant, the witness, the sister, the daughter, the woman who appeared in trial after trial, always testifying, never charged. And the question that haunts this case to this very day: can someone control every word they speak and still reveal too much? Before we dive into this labyrinth of manipulation and control, I need you to do something. If you're fascinated by cases where the truth hides in plain sight, where intelligence becomes a weapon rather than a virtue, then you need to subscribe to Dark Trail Files right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this channel doesn't just tell you what happened. We show you what it means. We examine the psychology, the patterns, the moments where careful composure cracks just enough to let the truth bleed through. This is going to be a journey you won't want to miss. Now let's begin. Watch how the courtroom itself acknowledges what would become both her greatest asset and her most dangerous liability.
Now I want to talk about your knowledge and your belief on this. You're a smart person, right?
How am I supposed to answer that?
Well, let's go through your resume. You went to Brandeis University, right?
I did.
You graduated magna cum laude.
I did.
If you could explain to the jury what that means.
It means I studied a lot and got good grades.
It means, and to speak, I'm from the Northeast. My Boston accent may give it away. It means you're wicked smart, right?
That's very
You had a high
nice of you.
GPA, a very high GPA.
I work hard.
You also went and you got a master's degree from the University of Cambridge.
I did.
You were a Gates Scholar.
I was.
You then go to the University of Miami School of Law, which is a top-tier law school, Tier 1, right?
Okay.
Right? We're talking about your level of intelligence. You went to the University of Miami Law School, right?
I did, yes.
You also clerked at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, right?
I did.
Now, to get a clerkship out of law school, it's a very difficult thing to do, right?
It's challenging.
You have to have top grades. You have to go through a rigorous selection process. right?
Yes.
You then become a professor at the Florida State University College of Law, right?
Yes.
You're also a published author. Right?
Now you're just embarrassing me.
This case everywhere. You'd agree with me on that, right?
I've been advised by my lawyer not to read it.
All right. Now, we're not talking about reading stuff. There's podcasts,
Also not to listen.
TV shows,
Also not to watch.
articles.
Don't read.
And so you've made the decision. Now, you're a lawyer yourself too, right?
I am.
And you made the decision, I'm not going to look at any of this stuff.
Correct.
I don't want to know what happened to the father of my 2 children.
Not I don't want to know what happened.
How can you say you love those boys if you don't care who killed the father that they loved?
You also have a separate obligation as an attorney to tell the truth, right?
Of course.
Okay.
I don't believe that I did.
You did not.
I don't remember doing that, no.
No further questions.
I don't remember exactly the timeline of that.
Okay, thank you.
Lawyers, yeah.
I honestly don't remember.
Intelligence in a courtroom isn't just about having the right answers. It's about knowing which questions to anticipate, which emotions to display, which silences to maintain. Wendi Adelson understood this better than most. As a law professor herself, she knew the language of legal proceedings, the weight of testimony, the power of perception. But here's what makes this case so compelling. Being smart doesn't just mean you can explain yourself well. It means you know exactly how your explanations will be interpreted, analyzed, dissected. Every word becomes a choice. Every pause carries meaning. And when you're that aware of how you're being perceived, sometimes the performance becomes visible. Throughout multiple trials spanning nearly a decade, Wendi testified with remarkable consistency. Her language was precise. Her composure rarely faltered. She presented herself as cooperative, forthcoming, even sympathetic. She was the grieving ex-wife, the protective mother, the family member caught in an unimaginable situation. Yet something peculiar emerged from this consistency. In testimony after testimony, her responses followed patterns. Questions about her knowledge were met with careful denials. Questions about her family were answered with measured loyalty. Questions about timing were addressed with convenient memory gaps. It wasn't that she contradicted herself. It was that she never seemed genuinely surprised by any question, no matter how unexpected. Intelligence, in this case, became a double-edged sword. It helped her navigate the minefield of legal interrogation. But it also made every answer feel rehearsed. Every emotion feel calculated. Every moment of confusion seem strategic. Ask yourself this. When someone is too prepared for every question, does that suggest innocence or awareness? Listen to how she describes a bond that prosecutors would later argue was more than just familial affection.
I absolutely had a close relationship with my brother.
And how soon after the murder did your lawyer advise you not to talk to your family about it?
In 2016.
Okay, so what about the 2 years in between? Did you talk to him about it then?
I mean, I talked to him about the fact that a murder occurred, but I guess I don't understand the question.
But you never talked to him about the suspicions you raised in the law enforcement interview that your brother might have done it.
No, I did not.
You suspected your brother could have been a part of this, right?
I suspected lots of people could have been a part of it.
But he was one of the people, right?
While I was talking with law enforcement for 6 hours, terrified out of my mind, I offered them every possible idea I could come up with.
Right. And one of the possible ideas was that your brother could have murdered your child's father.
I didn't really believe that was possible.
Was part of the plot for you to be able to have plausible deniability about this?
Absolutely not.
Is it better for both you and your brother if you don't know the details of this?
I don't even understand the question that you're asking me.
When did you first become aware that you might be a suspect in this case?
I mean, as the ex-wife, I assumed I was a suspect from the beginning.
What was your first thought when you were asked if anyone might have murdered Dan Markel for your benefit?
I thought, oh my God, maybe if I hadn't divorced him, he would still be alive. Maybe this is my fault because I complained to the wrong person. Maybe Danny gave a student a bad grade and they came after him. I just was trying to think of who possibly could have wanted to hurt him.
But you didn't say any of that before. I mean, the first thing you said was Charlie, right?
I don't think so.
Page 25 of your interview, line 5 through 15. Do you have any reason to dispute? Page 25, not 5 hours into it. You say Charlie might have done it, right?
Can I see, please?
You may. This is going to be tab 1, page 25.
What I say here is that he would never do it. Right under the highlighted part, I say no, he would never.
Need a copy?
Page 25, line 5 through 15. I mean, my brother, the one, his name is Charlie, the one I'm really close to. He makes a lot of jokes in that taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and then I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay or fix it, or whether I should get a new one. And it was always his joke that, he knew that Danny always treated me badly. And it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman and it was cheaper to get you this TV. So instead I got you this TV. And you do say you don't think he would do it, but can we agree you brought up his name on page 25 of the interview?
I did.
When asked, would you ever ask someone to do something like this? You say not in a million years. When asked, okay, do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you? You say no. And when Isom starts to ask you what good does it serve, you say, I mean my brother, the one, his name is Charlie. Isn't that how it went?
This is the transcript, but I think there's also inaccuracies in the transcription.
Oh boy. All right. Do you want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired them, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid them.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want them held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I said.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly
different
what I
today,
said
isn't
right
it?
here. No, that's not
No
right.
further questions.
Family loyalty is natural. Siblings protect each other. But at what point does closeness cross into something else entirely? Wendi Adelson and her brother Charlie shared more than blood. They shared a worldview shaped by the same controlling mother, the same privileged upbringing, the same understanding that family comes first. Always. In her testimony, Wendi described Charlie as protective, devoted, someone who would do anything for his little sister. She spoke of their relationship warmly, emphasizing their bond, their regular communication, their mutual support system. But prosecutors painted a different picture of this closeness. They presented evidence of constant contact, frequent visits, coordinated responses, a relationship where boundaries seemed non-existent, where Charlie knew intimate details of Wendy's custody battle, where Donna Adelson, their mother, orchestrated family responses like a conductor leading an orchestra. The question isn't whether they were close. The evidence clearly shows they were. The question is what that closeness facilitated. Consider this. Charlie Adelson was convicted of first-degree felonious conduct in Dan Markel's demise. Catherine Magbanua, his former partner, was the intermediary between Charlie and the individuals who carried out the act. Money flowed from the Adelson family dental practice to Magbanua, then to the individuals responsible. The chain of evidence was clear. And Wendi? She remained unindicted, a witness with immunity, protected by her status as the ex-wife, the mother, the one who supposedly knew nothing. But family closeness creates opportunities. Shared knowledge, coordinated silence, the ability to communicate without speaking directly. And when a family operates as a unit, individual culpability becomes harder to prove, even when collective intent seems obvious. Where does loyalty end and complicity begin? That's the question this case forces us to confront. Watch the moment law enforcement first encountered Wendy's grief. Notice what's there, but more importantly, notice what isn't.
Did your ID with you?
I just listened to my voicemail.
What'd you hear?
I
Who was
just-
your voicemail?
It's from Lisa Carey, who is my real estate agent, or who I had gone with to find a house. She just said she was driving around town and she heard there was a shooting on Trescott.
Yeah. That's what this is about. I'm sorry you had to hear it that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I should.
It's all right. Just leave it there. Is it still on?
It's right there.
Hey, it's Lisa Carey. It is Friday, and I feel like an idiot doing this, but I just heard that there was a shooting over on Trescott, and I promise I'm not trying to be dramatic or even nosy. I don't know, just checking on you, my friend. I hope all is well. I hope your sweet boys are well, and if there's anything you need, let me know. It just ran a chill down my spine when I heard that there was something going on Trescott. All right, 212-3083. Hope all is well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
That's all right. You can stop it. Or does it stop automatically?
It's done.
Okay. Do you have your identification with you? So you never took the last name of Markel?
No.
Adelson. Okay. Wendi with an I. Joe. All right. There was a shooting at your home, or your ex-husband's home, at 2116 Trescott. Okay. Your ex-husband, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm about to turn this morning. What happened?
Well, before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth.
Okay.
Okay, and then once we've established all that, I can give you more details.
Okay.
Do you understand why I wanted you to come here before I discuss this?
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, you have nothing to be sorry about.
I just don't understand. How could this really happen?
Can you, let me get over this hump, okay? Can we do that first? All right. Can you tell me what time you left your house this morning?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't leave this morning. I didn't leave until noon.
Okay. And
Oh my God. And I tried to drive up Trescott and I saw that it was blocked.
It was blocked at some point. I'm not sure what time it was
And I
blocked.
just thought, oh, there's maybe some trees down or something. Because sometimes
Oh, you're saying as you drove down which one of the side roads?
when I'm going to a friend's party tonight, and it's a oh my God, what am I even talking about? I needed to buy, it's a stock the shelf engagement party, and so I went to buy bourbon.
Okay.
So I went to drive from my place up Trescott to get to ABC Liquor, and it was blocked, so I just turned around. I was on the phone at the time. I wasn't paying a lot of attention.
Right.
So I just turned around and drove up the other way. I just thought, oh, sometimes when I lived there were electrical things
Okay.
that would happen. I left my house around 12:15 because I thought I'll get the bourbon and then I'll get some gas for the car and get super glue for one of the boys' toys. And I was trying to do all I can before meeting my two friends at 1.
Okay, who was at your house this morning?
The only person that was at my house this morning was a guy from Best Buy because my TV was broken and it's under warranty.
Either for you.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay, a guy from Best Buy was at your house to work on your TV?
I have his name and everything at the house if you
Okay.
want it, because the boys broke the TV, so he gave me a choice of fixing it or getting a new one. And
What time did he come to the house?
he called me at around 8. He was probably there until around 10.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And then you
and then after he left, I kept working on a paper, and I emailed the paper to a librarian at school to work on some of the citations.
Okay.
And I don't think I talked to anyone else, but I was just working for an hour or so from the house. I was going to take a shower, but I didn't. I ran out of time. I did laundry, and then I left the house around noon.
To go to the liquor store and the stuff for the party.
Yeah,
Okay, you went down which road you said?
I went down Trescott.
Okay.
I saw a police car there, and I just thought it's blocked, so I just turned around and drove to, I went down the rest of Centerville, went up Benton, took Benton across, went to ABC Liquors, bought the bourbon.
I'm a little confused. You're up on Centerville Road. What's your purpose of driving down Trescott?
It's usually the shortcut to get to
Oh.
Monroe.
To get to Monroe?
I usually take it as a cut through to get to Thomasville or Monroe.
Okay, all right, so
I
you,
don't know why I said Monroe. I was thinking Mosaic, Monroe, Thomasville.
okay, so when you come down into town on Centerville,
I almost always cut through Trescott.
Trescott, and just drive by your old house?
Well, I do it as a way of like coming to terms with the divorce. But yeah, sometimes I drive there. If I'm too sad, I drive around.
Okay,
If the kids aren't home and I know they're not home, I feel better about driving by the house. But yeah, it's shorter and I just usually drive by.
it's shorter than going all the way down to Benton.
All the way down Centerville and around Benton. It's just
Right.
a shortcut I always took.
Okay, so you turned around and went back to Centerville, I take it,
Yeah.
down to Benton, and went to the liquor store down there on Thomasville?
Yeah.
The one at Benton Road?
ABC Liquors, it's at, Benton.
Okay, all right, did you make a purchase there?
Yeah,
And that was sometime after 12?
probably 12:30.
Okay, all right.
And I talked to a guy there because I don't really buy much alcohol, and so they wanted bourbon, and I asked the guy, we had a whole conversation about bourbon and
Right.
my eyes, like,
Your eyes?
he just said, your eyes are really blue,
Right.
and
You have contacts?
I do.
Okay.
But I just remembered it.
Right.
So I bought the bourbon and got some gas on Thomasville and met my friends at Mosaic.
Which gas station did you go to on Thomasville?
The one that's, I always forget the name, but the one that's close to the cross street, it's right next to the Goodwill.
Okay.
If you're heading north on Thomasville, if you're heading north on Thomasville, it's on your right.
Okay. Okay, just past the Goodwill
Just
place?
past the Goodwill. It's close to the intersection there.
Okay, all right, and then from that point, you went straight to the
Went to Mosaic
Mosaic restaurant?
and met friends there. I used to have kind of a steady Friday meeting, and I hadn't seen my two friends in a while. And so we had made plans to meet up.
What time did you get to Mosaic?
About 1. I was a little late. We were supposed to meet at 1, and I got there a few minutes after.
Okay, all right, I know it's cold in here. Okay.
I think that's not why. I'm
Okay,
shaking.
I know it's part of it, but do you know anybody that would have a beef against your ex-husband?
He's oh my God.
I hate to ask it now, but I have to do it now. You
I
understand,
understand.
right?
I understand. He had friends. He always meant well, but he would sometimes rub people the wrong way.
Okay.
But not anyone who would do something like this.
Anybody that he owes money to?
No, he owes money to me,
He owes money to you?
but
Okay.
not me.
Okay. All right. All right.
Oh my God, we're poor kids. Oh, I know a lot of people didn't really love him, but I don't know anyone who would do something like this.
Well, we're still trying to determine, what happened and how it happened.
But he wouldn't do this to himself.
Okay.
He was a very positive person.
Okay.
He
No one that you know of or that you've spoken to recently that he's had some type of problem with or that he was concerned about?
No one that he was concerned about. I mean, we've been separated for 2 years, so I don't know,
Right.
If he had something going on, I wouldn't know about it. But, I mean, I had lost my voice earlier this week, and so we had put off this conversation about our son's school and where he was going to go, and he, I can't, I know a lot of people didn't love him, but not anyone who would, hate him.
Okay.
He meant well. Everyone that knew him
Okay.
knows that he means well, but he can be a little, argumentative.
Right.
But not, he didn't owe anyone money. He didn't do anything except work and take care of his kids. He wasn't involved in anything bad.
Okay.
I can't believe this is happening.
I know. And he was a professor at the law school, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And your divorce has been 2 years or the total separation, I'm assuming?
Total separation's been 2 years. Our divorce was finalized last summer around this time.
Okay.
He wouldn't do this to himself. He has a girlfriend now.
His
Genuine grief is chaotic. It overwhelms. It makes speech difficult, breathing irregular, composure impossible. We've all seen it. The person who can barely form sentences because the reality is too crushing to process. On July 18th, 2014, just hours after Dan Markel was shot, police arrived at Wendi Adelson's home. The body cam footage from that encounter has been analyzed countless times because it captures something unsettling. When he cried, she expressed shock. She asked questions, but something was missing. The collapse, the disorientation, the raw, unfiltered reaction of someone whose world has just shattered. Instead, her grief came in controlled waves. She cried, then composed herself. She expressed emotion, then provided detailed answers. She seemed upset, but never overwhelmed. Her speech remained clear. Her timeline remained coherent. Her ability to engage with investigators never wavered. Compare this to how most people respond to sudden, violent tragedy. They can't think straight. They repeat themselves. They struggle to form complete thoughts. The shock creates a kind of temporary incompetence. But when he functioned perfectly, she remembered details. She volunteered information. She maintained her composure, even while displaying emotion. This is where the performance becomes visible. Not because she didn't cry. She did. But because her tears never interfered with her ability to control the narrative. And that's unusual. That's the kind of emotional regulation you see in someone who's prepared for the conversation, not someone who's been blindsided by horror. Can grief be authentic if it's also strategic? Can someone be genuinely devastated and still maintain perfect control? These are the questions that footage raises. She's about to explain the joke. Again, for what feels like the 100th time. Listen to how the repetition drains the innocence from the explanation.
I absolutely had a close relationship with my brother.
And how soon after the murder did your lawyer advise you not to talk to your family about it?
In 2016.
Okay, so what about the 2 years in between? Did you talk to him about it then?
I mean, I talked to him about the fact that a murder occurred, but I guess I don't understand the question.
But you never talked to him about the suspicions you raised in the law enforcement interview that your brother might have done it.
No, I did not.
You suspected your brother could have been a part of this, right?
I suspected lots of people could have been a part of it.
But he was one of the people, right?
While I was talking with law enforcement for 6 hours, terrified out of my mind, I offered them every possible idea I could come up with.
Right. And one of the possible ideas was that your brother could have murdered your child's father.
I didn't really believe that was possible.
Was part of the plot for you to be able to have plausible deniability about this?
Absolutely not.
Is it better for both you and your brother if you don't know the details of this?
I don't even understand the question that you're asking me.
When did you first become aware that you might be a suspect in this case?
I mean, as the ex-wife, I assumed I was a suspect from the beginning.
What was your first thought when you were asked if anyone might have murdered Dan Markel for your benefit?
I thought, oh my God, maybe if I hadn't divorced him, he would still be alive. Maybe this is my fault because I complained to the wrong person. Maybe Danny gave a student a bad grade and they came after him. I just was trying to think of who possibly could have wanted to hurt him.
But you didn't say any of that before. I mean, the first thing you said was Charlie, right?
I don't think so.
Page 25 of your interview, line 5 through 15. Do you have any reason to dispute? Page 25, not 5 hours into it. You say Charlie might have done it, right?
Can I see, please?
You may. This is going to be tab 1, page 25.
What I say here is that he would never do it. Right under the highlighted part, I say no, he would never.
Need a copy?
Page 25, line 5 through 15. I mean, my brother, the one, his name is Charlie, the one I'm really close to. He makes a lot of jokes in that taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and then I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay or fix it, or whether I should get a new one. And it was always his joke that, he knew that Danny always treated me badly, and it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV. And you do say you don't think he would do it, but can we agree you brought up his name on page 25 of the interview?
I did.
When asked, Would you ever ask someone to do something like this? You say not in a million years. When asked, okay, do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you, you say no. And when Isom starts to ask you, what good does it serve, you say, I mean my brother, the one, his name is Charlie. Isn't that how it went?
This is the transcript, but I think there's also inaccuracies in the transcription.
Oh boy. All right. Do you want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired them, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid them.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want them held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says, regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I said.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly
different
what I
today,
said
isn't
right
it?
here. No, that's not
No
right.
further questions.
Some jokes are funny once. Some jokes wear thin with repetition. And some jokes stop being jokes entirely when they become prophecy. The hired individual joke became the most infamous line in this entire case. According to Wendi, when her brother Charlie gave her a television as a separation present, he quipped that it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. It was supposedly a moment of dark humor during a difficult time. A joke, nothing more, except when he mentioned this joke immediately to police in her very first interview, before anyone suggested her family might be involved, before there was any reason to bring up hired individuals at all. Why would someone, upon learning their ex-husband has been shot, immediately recall a joke about hiring someone to cause harm? Why would that be top of mind unless it carried more weight than humor? And then she kept mentioning it in multiple interviews, in multiple trials, each time with the same explanation. It was just a joke. Charlie has a dark sense of humor. It meant nothing. But repetition is strange. When you tell the same story over and over, especially when no one's asking you to repeat it, it starts to sound less like recollection and more like reinforcement. Like you're trying to convince not just others, but yourself that the explanation holds. Prosecutors noted the pattern. Jeff Lacasse, Wendy's ex-boyfriend, testified that Wendi told him something much more concerning. She said that Charlie had looked into all options to handle the Dan Markel problem, including hiring someone to carry out the act. Not as a joke, as a genuine consideration. So which version was true? The lighthearted quip repeated in courtrooms? Or the serious confession shared in private? The joke didn't age well, and with each retelling, its innocence dissolved a little more, until all that remained was an echo of intent disguised as humor. He dated Wendi after her separation from Markel. He loved her. He trusted her. And then he started to fear he was being positioned as the perfect suspect.
All right, Mr. Lacasse, I want to take you back to July 13th, 2014. This is going to be the Sunday before the homicide that we're here about. Did you see Wendi Adelson that evening at her residence here in Tallahassee?
Yes, after we returned from dinner and a movie, we went back to her residence. Yes, ma'am.
All right, and at some point that evening, did the issue of the relocation battle that was going on back in the summer of 2013 come up?
It did.
And is that the issue we've already touched on, which has to do with her wanting to move to South Florida with the children and filing a petition to do so in the courts?
That's right, and by extension, the issue of being stuck in Tallahassee.
Okay. And while discussing that issue, did Ms. Adelson make some statements to you about her brother Charlie?
She did.
And what were those statements?
She asked to speak to me confidentially in a very serious tone of voice, told me that Charlie had investigated all possible options to take care of the problem of Danny Markel, including hiring a hitman, which would cost about $15,000. And I later revised that and thought maybe it was $50,000, but the dollar amount was the only thing in question. She definitely said that Charles Adelson had looked into hiring a hitman to kill Danny Markel.
And when did she say Mr. Adelson had looked into hiring a hitman?
When the relocation was denied the previous summer.
Okay. All right. And the dollar amount, so she either said 15 or 50, you're not sure which?
That's correct.
Okay. And when she said this, what was her demeanor like?
She's very serious.
All right, so definitely not the to be confused with the TV joke?
No, I'd heard that joke repeatedly. I knew that joke. This was something very different. This was chilling, a little scary, made my stomach flip. I found it disturbing. The joke was said in a lighthearted manner, and this was not said in that way. This was serious and said confidentially.
All right, thank you. And I want to, okay, I think we should go from there to the next day, which is going to be July 14th, 2014, the Monday before the murder.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Wendi Adelson on that day?
Yeah, I can't remember if I contacted her or if she contacted me, but she was excited to see me. And I wasn't so sure about that because the night before we'd had an awkward conversation at the conclusion of that night, and I had told her that she didn't want to do this anymore, that she could just send me a text and I wouldn't, take any offense. We would just, break up. So I didn't get that text. Instead, I talked to Wendi Adelson, and she was excited to see me.
All right, so what did you do?
Well, then she needed to call me back, and it went from her enthusiasm about seeing me to let's just meet at yoga tonight, go in separate cars. So there was a real shift in about 30 minutes.
Did you go to yoga?
We did. We went to yoga.
All right. And after yoga, was there a discussion about your relationship and the status of your relationship?
Yeah, a very brief one. I mean, yoga's not a great place to talk, obviously. So while we were sitting there, she seemed very cold, and I kind of got the feeling that it was over, that this was it. So as we walked to the car, I tried to talk to her about the relationship, and that didn't go well. And so I just kind of put up my hands and walked away, feeling sad that this was it.
All right. And as you walked away, was that the end, or was there more conversation after you began to walk away?
No, she called out to me, and I walked back towards her. And she was deeply curious. Well, let me back up slightly. During that conversation, she didn't have any interest in spending any time with me for the rest of the week, so it kind of confirmed, this is over. Mm-hmm. But then when she called me back, she had a series of detailed questions about what I would be doing on Friday.
And Friday is going to be July 18th, right?
Yes.
And that's the date of the homicide?
That's exactly right.
What were her inquiries of you regarding that date?
I had a trip planned to Tennessee. She was aware that I was planning to leave about 11 a.m. On Friday. I need to get to Atlanta for an early dinner, so with traffic, she knew I was departing at 11. And at the yoga studio in the parking lot, she had asked if I was still going, if I didn't go, why not, what route I would be taking a lot of bizarre amount of interest in that trip that didn't make sense to me at the time, given that she didn't want to spend time with me.
And how does it make sense to you now?
Well, if I had left on my trip at the scheduled time that she had known about for quite a while, I would have driven pretty close to Danny Markel's house about the same time as at the murder, in a similar looking car to the suspect vehicle.
What type of vehicle did you drive?
I drove a 2004 Nissan Sentra that was silver metallic gray color.
So if you had followed your original plans, you would have been passing by the Markel residence or nearby there around the same time as the killers were fleeing?
Yeah, I would have been at Capitol Circle in Thomasville. Sure, I would have been on the same cell tower, for example. I think my life could have been pretty complicated had I taken my original plans.
All right, so you didn't, I guess, take the original plans.
No, I did not. I had made a last-minute decision the night before to leave Thursday night instead. I had not informed Ms. Adelson about that because we weren't speaking. Actually, no, I don't know that anyone, for sure that anyone in Tallahassee knew I had changed my plans, just the people at the other end.
All right, so you were actually in Tennessee at the time of the homicide.
I was.
And when we've heard you were called in as a potential suspect, and apparently named by a Jane McPherson. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Okay, who is that?
That was a friend of Wendi Adelson's, and she was a doctoral student in our program. I had not much of a relationship with her, just a kind of a working relationship. We'd worked on a couple of projects together, but I didn't know her very well at all.
But someone that knew that you had been dating Wendi.
Yeah, I think she was a confidant of Wendi Adelson's. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so you get called in, and were you able to provide documentation to show that you were in Tennessee and not in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I was excluded fairly quickly because the investigators found Kmart surveillance footage of me at a Kmart in Tennessee using my credit card with my cell phone showing me there shortly after the murder, so it was impossible that I was the shooter.
All right, and then was there also some similar type coincidences around the time of the trip that the killers made in June?
Yes. On June 6th, I had a business trip to Gainesville, and I departed at 11 a.m. on a Friday, June 6th, which Ms. Adelson would have known about by March. So really, I take 2 trips out of Tallahassee in my car the whole spring and summer semester. And both times, hitmen tried to kill Danny Markel.
Okay. Any further contact with Wendi after the yoga date?
We about 10 days after the murder, she reached out to a mutual friend, and we had a few phone calls.
And during one of those phone calls, did you learn about a dinner where Wendi had become ill at the table?
Yes, I did learn about that.
And what did you learn about that dinner?
That she went out to dinner with Charlie for what he called a celebration dinner. He said something to her. She spontaneously vomited on the table.
And this would have been within how much time after the homicide?
Within a few weeks.
Was it specified that the celebration was in reference to Dan Markel's death as opposed to anything else?
Wasn't specified.
Okay. But whatever it was, that's the dinner where she vomited.
That's right. That's right.
One moment, please. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Let's shift gears a teeny bit.
Okay.
When you and Miss Adelson were dating, there were occasions when she would drive, right?
Yes.
Did she have a good sense of direction?
I don't know.
You're aware that when she was married to, she lived in Professor Markel, she lived on the house on Trescott, right?
Yes.
And when you were dating Wendi, would she often use Trescott as a shortcut to get from one place to another?
She used it a few times when I was in the car, if that's what you're asking. She did that on June 27th, the day we departed to Gainesville at 11 a.m. on a Friday.
I think you said in one of your interviews that she would do that at least 100 times, drive by the house.
That was a figure of speech.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, we'll start with the joke, the bad joke.
Yes.
You mentioned this TV joke, how it was lighthearted, bad humor, certainly in the context of what happened, but it was a joke.
Yeah, it was dark humor, I would say, but it was clearly a joke, yes.
And do you recall that joke being given at that Yardbird dinner?
I don't.
Could it have been given at that Yardbird dinner?
It could have, but I don't recall it, and I actually think I might remember that,
I'm sure you do.
given what happened.
I think one thing that has been established is you believe that Wendi Adelson tried to frame you for Professor Markel's murder, right?
I'm suspicious that there was an effort made in that way, yes.
And so that has affected your viewpoint, correct?
Sure.
Well, let's talk about your viewpoint. And we have to go a little bit back and repeat a couple things to put it in context. So you meet with Charlie Adelson. He tells you that he's he's friends with people in the criminal element. You say thanks for a great meeting, correct? Send him a nice text.
The next day I sent him a text, yes.
You don't go to the police.
No, I don't go to the police.
Okay. You then hear that Charlie's made a joke many times about this TV being cheaper than hiring a hitman.
Heard the joke twice.
Okay. You don't go to the police.
No.
Then in June, at a time when Wendi Adelson is breaking up with you, she sits you down and she says, I have to confide the biggest secret in my life. That a year ago, my brother actually looked into hiring a hitman. That's your testimony here today, right?
You said in June, sir?
In June? I'm sorry, in July.
Okay.
In July.
Can you restate that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
Sorry.
I'll try to keep it lower this time. In July of 2014,
Yes.
about a week before the murder, when you're breaking up with Wendi Adelson, or things are seriously not good, she sits you down and she says, Jeffrey, I've got to confide in you. My brother actually looked into hiring a hitman. That's your testimony here today.
No, she didn't sit me down. She said it in passing, and she had a habit of blurting out things that weren't in her own self-interest. But she did do that. She did make that statement, yes, sir.
And it was chilling to you.
It was.
Unlike the joke, you thought it was real.
It was real, yes.
Did you go to the police?
I did not.
And then you break up.
Kind of. She strung me along for another week, as you know. Mostly, yeah, but kind of.
Well, the murder happens and you get called in as a suspect of the murder.
Right.
And you're upset at that point.
Yes, I was upset.
And you have a first interview with the police, and then you have a second interview with the police.
Yes.
And during the second interview with the police, you talked solely about Wendi Adelson.
Yeah, I think that's right. I felt like I needed to say they needed to look at Wendi Adelson as well. That was the point of that talk, yes, sir.
That was the point of that talk.
Yes.
And you even you don't mention actually Charlie Adelson at all in that second interview.
I already had done so yes, you're correct.
So that second interview, you talk just about Wendi Adelson. And in fact, you're so uncomfortable in the interview. You tell the police that. You say, I'm so uncomfortable, and Detective Isom asked you why. Do you recall that?
It wasn't a Detective Isom.
Okay, I'm sorry. The detective who was interviewing you asked you why.
I don't... You have to remind me on that.
Well, let me remind you what you
Yeah.
said. You said, because it's hard for me, because if she would take me back right now, I would go back to her.
Yeah, I was still under her spell to some degree. I would say I was fairly pathetic at that point. I would acknowledge that. Yeah.
So let me understand this, because I want to make sure I've got it right. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Sure.
Wendi Adelson has told you that her brother looked into hiring a hitman sometime in 2013. He gets murdered.
He does.
you go to an interview, and during that interview, you're still thinking about staying with Wendi Adelson. You don't want to talk badly about her because you still want to be with her.
You're talking about this July 23rd interview specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, it only been a week. It was still pretty fresh. I was still pretty mixed up. That's right.
Okay, well, let's see how mixed up you were after that. So then you're clearly broken up at that point. We can agree, right?
Actually, I would say yes functionally, but I've testified before that Miss Adelson and I had conversations in August where she behaved as if we were still together, and we had a conversation that finally ended it, initiated by me. Now, practically, we were broken up.
You never went on a date with her again, right?
Never saw her again other than in our courtroom, right.
Fair enough. Then she tells you, according to you, that my client, Charlie Adelson, says that she had a celebration dinner with Charlie, and that the celebration dinner was about the murder of Professor Markel.
I don't recall saying that last part.
But that's how you took it, right?
I worried that was the case. I told the police, and my understanding was Wendi conceded she threw up on our dinner table.
Do you know that the first time you told the police that was in March of 2015?
I do know that.
So what happened in September of 14? What happened in October of 14? What happened in November of 14? What happened in December of 14? January of 15? February of 15? You still didn't think that was important to tell the police?
I'm happy to answer that. I think you deserve an explanation on that. You may have noticed in my March 6, 2015 interview, I come in with notes, big pile of notes. Those notes are written in July of August. They're written pretty quick after the murder. I didn't come in right away, partially because I was scared of your client. I was scared of the repercussions if I went on the record further about my suspicion. So I was reluctant to come back in because I was frankly scared.
Oh, I get it. You were scared of him in August of 14, but you weren't scared of him in March of 2015.
Now I decided to man up. I decided it was a homicide and needed to man up. That's the decision I made.
Right. You weren't scared to tell him that my client had actually looked into a hitman a year earlier. That didn't scare you. You could tell him that in July.
No, I was.
Hold on, sir. Let me ask the question.
Fair enough.
In July of 2014, you told police that Charlie Adelson, you heard, actually looked at hiring a hitman. You weren't scared to tell him that.
I asked for police protection. I was scared.
You told them that in July of 2014. Isn't that correct?
Yes, in the same conversation I said, can I get some assurances? Can I get some protection? I have something I want to tell you. I'm scared to tell you.
But you were too scared to tell him about a celebration dinner comment, and you waited almost half a year to tell him?
Well, I did wait half a year to tell them, but the notes I brought in were written right after that interview. I also wanted to get my thoughts together because I thought this day might come. And in those first two interviews, there was a lot going on. It was pretty traumatic, so I wanted to collect my thoughts. So that's what I was doing, in addition to being pretty frightened and having to get over that idea.
Isn't it true that those comments never happened, and you're upset because you believe that this family tried to frame you for murder?
Everything I'm saying is true.
I'm sure it is. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Move to strike the "I'm sure it is" comment.
I'll withdraw it.
It's withdrawn. Please disregard, members of the jury.
I have no further comments for this.
Questions?
Or questions.
Redirect examination.
This may seem like a fine point, but I want to make sure it's crystal clear. When Mr. Rashbaum was asking you about the hot tub conversation, Mr. Rashbaum said that his client said that he was friends with people in the criminal element. Is that exactly what was said?
The word I recall is he had connections and friends on both sides of the tracks.
Okay. Connections to
Criminal
the criminal
elements. And
element.
particularly, there was the Cuban neighborhood comment that I repeated to the TPD later.
Gotcha.
Actually, on July 21st, first interview, I mentioned that comment.
Okay. How many pages of notes do you have in reference to this case?
Like right now or over the last 9 years?
I mean, kind of over the last 9 years.
Yeah. I'm a researcher by training. I'm an analytic person by nature. So those 6 months was pretty obsessive. I was reviewing every text message, every email, writing. I condensed it down. I think if you watch the videotape, you would see me bring in 3, 4, 5 pages. But I would say I wrote probably 100 pages before I came in to see them the third time.
Going through every receipt,
Yes.
every detail,
Yes.
partially out of what? What motivation?
Well, pretty traumatic, so fear was part of it. Like, if they can catch the people that did this, I'll be safe. That was a big piece of it. Also, this was a brutal murder, and I wanted to see justice done, and I did not want to leave something sitting on the shelf. If I was in the possession of something that could help, I wanted to help.
And you did, isn't it true that you didn't know what was going to end up being important out of all the nuggets you dug out of the phone and everywhere
I
else?
had no idea, and I also told them repeatedly, I hope and pray this wasn't Wendi and Charlie Adelson. But just in case, here's the stuff I have.
And Mr. Rashbaum asked you about why didn't you go to the police when you learned that Mr. Adelson had in fact looked into hiring a hitman. This, just to reiterate, the statement was made the Monday before the murder, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's the statement that where Wendy's relating it to you.
Yes.
All right, so that's going to be in 2014.
Yes.
Okay, and she's making a statement about something that occurred in what year?
2013.
All right, why didn't you go to the police with this information?
Because it was a past tense thing she was reporting, I did not sense there was a present danger. I didn't know hitmen had already visited Tallahassee. I didn't realize there was an active murder plot.
In hindsight, should you have gone to the police with this information?
Yes.
One moment, please. Nothing else, Your Honor.
Lacrosse, you must step down. Mr. Rashbaum, did you have something that you needed to raise?
Maybe go sidebar briefly.
Approach.
Imagine dating someone and slowly realizing you might be a character in someone else's plan. That you're not a partner, but a piece on a chessboard. That's what Jeff Lacoste began to suspect. Lacoste dated Wendi Adelson during the custody battle with Markel. He was supportive, caring, present in her life and her children's lives. He knew about the tension with Dan, the custody disputes, the family drama. He was there for the difficult moments. But then Dan Markel was harmed. And Lacoste started connecting pieces that terrified him. He testified that Wendi had made him aware of the hitman consideration. She told him Charlie had explored this option. She'd shared this information with him specifically, creating a witness to her knowledge. And Lacoste started to wonder, was he being told this so that if something happened, he would become the obvious suspect? Think about the positioning. He was the new boyfriend. He knew about the custody battle. He had potential motive. He'd been given information that could make him look complicit or knowledgeable. And if investigators looked his way, Wendi could claim she'd confided in him, not knowing he would take action. His testimony revealed something chilling. The fear of being manipulated without consent. The realization that disclosure might not be about trust, but about creating distance. That sharing information could be less about intimacy and more about establishing plausible deniability. Lacoste's paranoia wasn't baseless. He understood he'd been placed in a precarious position. He had knowledge that could implicate him, given to him by someone whose family would later be convicted of orchestrating exactly what she described. When someone fears they're being set up before anything happens, it suggests they've recognized a pattern, a strategy, an awareness that they're part of a narrative they didn't write. And that awareness changes everything. She walks into the courtroom to testify against her own mother. Notice how the state treats her, not as a suspect, as a protected witness.
Good morning. If you can just take your seat for right now, I will swear you in when the jurors re-enter the room. I believe, even though the jurors indicated they did not have to go to the bathroom at this point, if we are once again dealing with the needs of 14 people, they might be in the bathroom. So wait for the knock. Okay. It's fun. I believe that we have a few jurors that do need to use the restroom. If anyone needs to stretch their legs or use the bathroom themselves, please take your opportunity now. Once we start with the testimony, again, the door will remain closed if you exit. Go ahead. Oh, before you leave the room, Ms. Fulford, once again, Mrs. Adelson, I'm going to reiterate the instruction that I gave to you last Friday concerning any reactions that you may have to either the testimony or the evidence in the case. I understand this may be a distressing thing for your child to be offering testimony in your trial. However, you are to control your expressions and your emotions. Do you understand those? Everyone can take their break. If you need to step down until it's time to testify, you may do so as well.
In criminal cases, how you're categorized matters. Are you a suspect, a defendant, a witness? Each label carries different protections, different obligations, different implications for justice. Wendi Adelson has never been charged, despite being present in nearly every significant moment of this case, despite having motive, despite having opportunity, despite testimony suggesting knowledge. She remains unindicted. Why? The prosecution's answer is strategic. They need her testimony to convict others. Charlie Adelson, her brother. Donna Adelson, her mother. Catherine Magbanua, the intermediary. The actual individuals who carried out the act. To build those cases, they needed Wendy's cooperation, her testimony, her willingness to appear in court and answer questions. So they granted her immunity. Limited immunity, but immunity nonetheless. She could testify without fear of her words being used against her. She became a witness for the state rather than a target of it. But this created a paradox. Prosecutors clearly believed Wendi had knowledge. Their questions suggested suspicion. Their evidence presentations implied involvement. Yet they protected her from prosecution in exchange for her participation in prosecuting her own family. This isn't unusual in complex cases. Sometimes you sacrifice smaller fish to catch bigger ones. Sometimes you grant immunity to someone you suspect in order to build cases against people you know are guilty. But in this case, many observers question whether the exchange was worth it. Donna Adelson, 75 years old, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Charlie Adelson, similarly convicted, will die behind bars. But Wendi, whose custody battle provided the motive, whose divorce provided the timeline, whose family connections provided the means, remains free. The legal system made a choice. Whether it was the right choice depends on your perspective. If you believe justice means punishing those who planned and funded the crime, then the system succeeded. If you believe justice means holding accountable everyone involved, including those who benefited most from the outcome, then questions remain. Wendy's status as a witness rather than a defendant raises uncomfortable questions about how we prioritize prosecution, whose testimony we value, and who we're willing to shield in pursuit of convictions. This isn't the defense questioning her. This is the prosecution, her own side. Listen to the tone, the pressure, the barely concealed accusation.
It's like my parents have more reason to dislike Danny than almost anyone else. Is that what you said?
That is what I said.
And that's because he hurt you, right?
And I was saying that in the context of talking to law enforcement for hours and hours and trying to help them figure out who might be responsible.
Right. And who did you tell them might be responsible?
Well, I told them many, many people. But are you asking about this particular moment right here?
You told them your family might be responsible.
Or potentially someone to do with a former student or his current girlfriend. I mentioned lots of people that I thought could be responsible.
Okay. And of the lots of people that could have been responsible, your family was one.
Yep.
Because they might have done this thinking it would help you. I mean, that's what happened, right?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Your family had your ex-husband killed to try to help you, didn't they?
No, that's completely untrue.
When did you learn that Catherine Magbanoa was blackmailing your brother for the murder of your ex-husband?
Today.
So he never told you?
No.
You testified in Catherine Magbanoa's murder trial last year, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And she was convicted.
She was convicted, yes.
A crime for which she apparently is innocent because she was just a conduit for Sigfredo Garcia. Did you learn that today along with all of us?
Well, I learned that someone made that argument. I don't know whether it's true or not true.
Did your dad get any big gifts for his 70th?
I don't remember.
So there was no big lead up and discussion about some big gift that you were involved in, at least?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I gave him a present. I hope I did.
Do you remember what anybody gave him for that birthday?
I really don't.
Was the murder of Dan Markel your dad's big gift?
I mean, that's, of course not. That's a horrible thing to say.
What about the grandchildren, getting full unfettered access to the grandchildren?
My parents had full unfettered access to their grandchildren always.
You want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
Somebody hired them, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid them.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want them held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I say.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly
different
what I
today,
said right
isn't it?
here. Oh, that's not
No
right.
further questions.
Direct examination is supposed to be friendly. Your own attorney asks you questions to tell your story, to present your version of events, to build your credibility. It's collaborative, supportive, designed to make you look good. But when Wendi Adelson testified in her brother Charlie's trial, something strange happened during direct examination. The prosecution, technically on her side as their witness, questioned her with an edge, with skepticism, with pressure more commonly seen during cross-examination. Why would prosecutors treat their own witness this way? Because they didn't believe her, and they wanted the jury to see that disbelief. The questions came rapid fire, pointed, designed to highlight inconsistencies, convenient memory lapses, suspicious timing. The tone wasn't respectful. It was confrontational, and Wendi had to defend herself not against hostile defense attorneys, but against the very prosecutors who had granted her immunity. This is extraordinarily unusual. When you call a witness, you typically handle them gently, especially if they're a cooperating witness with immunity. You don't attack them. You don't make them look suspicious. You don't risk alienating the jury by making your own witness seem evasive. Unless that's exactly what you want to show. The prosecution's aggressive direct examination sent a message to the jury. We're using this witness, but we don't trust her. We're presenting her testimony, but we want you to question it. were giving her immunity, but were not giving her a pass. It was a delicate balance. They needed her testimony to establish certain facts, to provide context, to connect dots. But they also needed the jury to understand that her immunity didn't equal innocence. The result was courtroom theater of the highest order. A witness being grilled by her own side. A prosecution simultaneously relying on and undermining their cooperator. A performance where the subtext was more important than the text. And Wendi had to navigate it. Had to answer questions that felt like attacks. Had to maintain composure while her credibility was being questioned by people supposedly on her side. When direct examination feels like cross, it reveals something fundamental. The witness isn't trusted. The witness is necessary, but suspected. The witness is a means to an end, not an ally in pursuit of truth. That's where Wendi found herself. Useful, but not believed. Protected, but not exonerated. A witness whose testimony helped convict her family, while leaving her own role permanently ambiguous. Every testimony begins with an introduction. Watch how she frames herself from the very first question. The foundation she lays before a single substantive question is asked.
Name and spell your name.
Wendi Adelson, Wendiadelson.
Ms. Adelson, where are you from?
I'm from Coral Springs, Florida.
And you live in another state now, currently, right?
I do, yes, ma'am.
All right. How are you employed?
I'm an immigration attorney.
How long have you been an attorney?
Since 2006.
And you're here pursuant to a state subpoena, is that correct?
Yes.
And that subpoena confers a type of immunity on you. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay. Which means that nothing you say here in court pursuant to that subpoena can be used against you at a later time. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean you could never be prosecuted. It just means that what you say in court could not be used in any future prosecution. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. I want to ask you about your ex-husband, Daniel Markel. Is that a fair and accurate photo of Mr. Markel?
Yes.
When did you meet him?
We met originally online. It must have been the fall of my first year of law school, so 2003.
Okay. And when did you marry Mr. Markel?
We married in February of 2006.
Were you living in Tallahassee at some point as a married couple?
Yes.
When did you move to Tallahassee?
We moved to Tallahassee my final year of law school, so that would have been in the summer of 2005. And we were here from 2005 till 2006. We spent a year at the University of Miami from 2006 to 2007, and then came back to Tallahassee from 2007 until 2014.
All right. And during the time that you were living here in Tallahassee, did you live over on Trescott Drive?
For some of the time that we lived here, yes.
And when your first child was born, were you residing at the Trescott Drive residence at that point?
Yes.
Okay. I think I have a photo of that here. Is that the Trescott Drive residence?
Yes.
And how many children did you have with Mr. Markel?
We have 2 children.
What were their ages at the time of their father's death?
It was 10 days before my older son's 5th birthday, so he was 4 turning 5, and our younger son was 3.5. The boys are 14 months apart.
And did there come a time when you and Mr. Markel separated?
Yes.
When was the separation?
It was in the fall of 2012.
Whose decision was it to separate?
It was mine.
How did your ex take that news?
Well, we talked about it many times before it actually happened, but when the separation became official, he was very upset.
And even though there were problems and issues and discussions, it was a surprise to him when it actually happened, right?
It was.
Okay. And was part of the reason for the separation your differing views on how to raise the kids pursuant to the Jewish faith?
I'd say it was a very small part, but it was a part.
Did you consider your ex to be a religious zealot?
No, I didn't think he was a religious zealot, but I did think he was using religion as a way of controlling me.
First impressions matter, especially in a courtroom. The way a witness begins their testimony sets the tone for everything that follows. It establishes credibility, demeanor, the lens through which the jury will interpret every subsequent answer. When Wendi Adelson took the stand in her mother Donna's trial, her opening testimony was carefully constructed. She identified herself. She acknowledged her relationship to the defendant. She established her role as both daughter and witness. But listen closely to what she emphasized. Not just the facts, but the framing. She positioned herself as someone caught between loyalty and truth, between family love and legal obligation. She presented herself as cooperative, even though testifying against her own mother. This framing is critical. It creates sympathy. It suggests she's making a difficult choice, doing the right thing despite personal cost. It paints her as someone who values justice over family protection. But prosecutors saw it differently. They saw someone controlling the narrative from the first word. Someone who understood that how you begin determines how you're perceived. Someone who knew that establishing yourself as reluctant but honest makes everything you say seem more credible. The opening moments of testimony are where witnesses make strategic choices. What to volunteer, what to withhold, what tone to strike. And for someone as legally sophisticated as Wendi, these weren't unconscious decisions. They were calculated moves in a larger game. Notice what she didn't say. She didn't express anger at her mother. She didn't claim betrayal. She didn't distance herself from the family she was testifying against. Instead, she maintained a careful balance. Cooperative enough to satisfy prosecutors. Loyal enough to avoid seeming vindictive. This is the performance of someone who understands that testimony isn't just about answering questions. It's about managing perception. And from her very first words, Wendi managed hers with precision. The question this raises is simple but profound. When someone is this aware of how they're presenting themselves, how much of what follows can be trusted as genuine rather than strategic? In a desperate attempt to save Donna, her defense attorney points the finger at the one person prosecutors won't touch. Her daughter.
I wouldn't say without his influence in any way, but yes, they've grown up without their father.
He's not here to give them advice.
He is not.
He can't come to any of their functions, sports, anything else.
Correct.
They're not eating kosher like they would have with their father.
They are not.
They don't have him at all.
They don't have him in their lives day to day, no.
Because on July the 18th of 2014, he was brutally murdered in his driveway. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And you testified on direct that anybody in your family that had anything to do with it should be held responsible. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And that includes you, doesn't it?
Anyone who's responsible.
Nothing further.
Redirect examination.
When you said you were an actor in someone else's show, whose show was it?
I think I felt like I just wasn't fully present in my own life, that I had always been a real people pleaser. And so there was an aspect of not always being true to myself and wanting to make other people happy.
And one of those people is your mom, right?
Yes.
And that's part of why you kept going with relocation, even when you kind of had some doubts about it, right?
I would say it's part of the reason.
Every defendant deserves a defense. Every attorney has an obligation to mount the strongest case possible for their client. But when your client is a mother accused of orchestrating her former son-in-law's demise, and the evidence seems overwhelming, sometimes the only strategy left is deflection. Donna Adelson's defense attorney made a bold choice. He suggested that if anyone in the Adelson family was involved, it wasn't Donna. It was Wendi. Think about what this means. A mother's own attorney, hired to protect her, arguing that her daughter is the real culprit. It's the ultimate betrayal wrapped in legal strategy. The defense presented this theory carefully. They noted that Wendi had the most to gain. She was the one who wanted to relocate with the children. She was the one in the custody battle. She was the one whose life would improve most dramatically if Dan Markel was no longer in the picture. They highlighted her contradictions, her convenient memory failures, her presence near the crime scene on the day of the incident, her immediate mention of the hired individual joke, her relationship with Jeff Lacasse and what she told him. And they posed the question prosecutors wouldn't. If Wendi had knowledge, if Wendi had motive, if Wendi benefited most, why isn't she sitting at the defense table? The strategy was clear. Create reasonable doubt by pointing at an alternative suspect. And what better alternative suspect than someone the prosecution had already granted immunity? But this defense strategy revealed something devastating. Donna Adelson's own attorney believed the best way to save her was to sacrifice her daughter's reputation. To suggest that Donna might have acted, if she acted at all, not as mastermind but as a mother protecting a daughter who'd crossed a line. The jury didn't buy it. Donna was convicted. But the defense's argument lingers as a kind of ghost in this case. A reminder that even Donna's own legal team thought Wendi's innocence was questionable enough to use as a shield. When a mother's defense requires accusing her daughter, it tells you something about how thoroughly this case has fractured a family. And it tells you something about how many people, even those paid to protect the Adelsons, harbor doubts about Wendi's role. She's asked directly, multiple times, in multiple trials, and each time, the denial comes with volume, with emphasis, with dramatic clarity. Listen to how it sounds.
Were you in any way involved in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
No.
Did you maybe know it was going to happen but not know the details?
I did not know it was going to happen, and I did not know any details.
Did you provide any information, even unknowingly in hindsight, that you think could have been used to assist the murderers?
I don't think so. I didn't provide any information.
What information do you have regarding your mother's involvement in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
I don't have information.
But you do admit that your brother said he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel.
I don't. I admit that my brother made a tasteless joke repeatedly about buying me a TV because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
But then someone did hire a hitman who did kill Dan Markel, right?
Yes, that happened.
Was part of the plot to kill your ex for you to have plausible deniability or to know very little about it?
I was not involved in any plot to kill Danny.
Were you shielded from the plot because, I don't know, you couldn't be trusted to keep a secret?
I was not involved in any plot to kill Danny.
Why did you tell investigator Isom in your law enforcement interview that you were worried the police, or you were worried, I guess, in the police car on the way to be interviewed, that you might be considered a suspect?
Because I couldn't think of anything bad going on in his life other than the divorce. And frequently the ex-wife is a suspect.
Were you treated as a suspect?
I was not.
But you mentioned 9 times in your law enforcement interview being a suspect, didn't you?
I did, yes.
There's a difference between denying something factually and denying something theatrically. Factual denial is simple, direct, often quiet. You state what is and isn't true. Theatrical denial is louder, more emphatic, designed for impact rather than information. Wendi Adelson's denials of involvement fall into the second category. When asked if she plotted against Dan Markel, she didn't simply say no. She said it with force, with emotion, with visible offense at the suggestion. She emphasized her innocence not just through words, but through tone, body language, visible indignation. This isn't necessarily suspicious. Innocent people can be offended by accusations. Innocent people can respond emotionally when their integrity is questioned. But prosecutors noted a pattern. Her denials were always dramatic, but rarely specific. She would deny involvement broadly, but struggle with details. She would express emotion about the accusation, but avoid addressing specific pieces of evidence. For example, when asked about her knowledge of the hired individual consideration, she denied plotting. But she didn't explain why she told Jeff Lacasse about Charlie's exploration of that option. She denied involvement, but didn't clarify what she meant by involvement. This is where theatrical denial becomes problematic. When someone focuses more on how they deny than what they're denying, it suggests performance over substance. Compare this to how someone truly blindsided by an accusation responds. They're confused. They ask for clarification. They want to understand what specific actions are being attributed to them, so they can address each one directly. Wendy's denials were comprehensive, but vague. Emotional, but not detailed. Convincing in volume, but questionable in specificity. And that's what makes them memorable. Not because they proved innocence, but because they demonstrated an awareness of how denial should sound to be effective. When denial becomes performance, it raises the question, who is the performance for? The jury? The prosecutors? Or the person doing the denying? She wrote a novel before Dan Markel's passing. The main character is a lawyer, stuck in a small Florida town, unable to leave because of her husband. Listen to her explain how it's not autobiographical.
And is that the only book you've written, or have you written more than one book?
I've only written one book.
What was the book about?
The book was about human trafficking and about the vulnerabilities that lead to trafficking, the problems when it occurs, and basically how to recover from it after.
Where was the book set?
It was set in a fictional town.
What was the name of the fictional town?
Hiawassee Springs.
So Hiawassee. Is it located in the panhandle of Florida?
No, I used to see the name when I was driving from Tallahassee to Orlando, so it's somewhere in between.
And was the place modeled after Tallahassee?
It was definitely somewhere in Florida, but not supposed to be about Tallahassee, no.
Who was the central character in that book?
So there's three central characters. One was one of my clients, kind of a composite character from Eastern Europe. One was kind of a composite character of many clients I've represented from Latin America, and one was a public interest lawyer.
And was the public interest lawyer Lily?
Yes.
And is that the character that was sort of based after yourself?
No, really more based after a friend of mine.
And was Hiawassee, Florida, quote, just a small stop on the way back to what we had previously known as civilization? Is that a quote from your book?
That sounds like a quote from my book, yeah.
And who's the husband of Lily, the public interest lawyer?
You want his name in the book?
Yes.
I think it was Josh Stone.
All right, and what was Josh's employment?
Josh was an English professor.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Josh was an English professor.
A professor, where did he teach?
It's been a while. I wrote the book over 10 years ago. I don't remember what I named the university in the
North Florida State University?
That sounds right.
NFSU?
NFSU sounds right, yeah.
All right, and in the book, does Lily lament, quote, we moved to this godforsaken place for Josh's career?
Yes, that sounds like a line Lily would say.
All right. When you looked at page 187 of the divorce document on cross, and I'll hand that back to you. This is actually my copy. Just turn back to 187. Do you see the quote that you read previously from that page?
I don't.
Okay. It had to do with, let's see if I can find it. That you were very unhappy in the marriage. I think it's the third paragraph there.
I see that line.
Okay, the wife has been very unhappy in the marriage and files her petition for dissolution of marriage in August 2012. The husband continues to characterize this as abandonment, and then it goes on to say that he had been disparaging you to some of the folks at the law school. Do you remember reading that?
I do.
Was that intended to be the place in this binder where you allege emotional abuse by your husband?
I mean, I think it's emotionally abusive to suggest somebody has mental health issues.
Okay. What is the Prof's blog? You were asked about that on Cross.
Yeah, it was a blog that Danny started with some of his colleagues to kind of promote community in the law professor world.
And who reads the Prof's?
Probably
Prof's blog?
other law professors and people interested in becoming law professors.
Who is on the Crim Prof listserv?
I don't know.
Were you on the listserv for that Prof's blog?
I may have been on the listserv at some point.
Do you remember seeing the post that you were shown on Cross?
I do.
And the post says something about Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is there any other information on what you were shown about Dan's travel plans post-murder other than that?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
The post says Danny and I guess it's another professor writing this thing. Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is that the type of information that he would typically have on something like the Prof's blog or Facebook?
That sounds right.
Okay, but as far as the date he's leaving, the flight he's on, that kind of stuff, would that typically be on the Prof's blog?
He wouldn't put what flight number he was on, but he would almost always communicate when he was going on a trip.
Okay, so going to a conference that starts July 20th might be an example.
Flying to New York tomorrow would be an example,
okay.
But not a flight number.
But he didn't put flying to New York tomorrow on this occasion?
No.
You were referenced several times, not on direct examination by the state, but by your brother's attorney on Cross as a co-conspirator. Are you charged in this case?
No.
This isn't your trial, is it?
No.
Is your brother charged with conspiring with you to do a murder?
No.
Is he charged with conspiring with you to plan a murder?
No.
Is he charged with soliciting you to do a murder?
No.
Who is he charged with doing those things with?
I don't think anyone.
Have you had an opportunity to review his indictment in this case?
I have not.
Give you an opportunity to take a look at that document to yourself. Who is your brother alleged to have done these crimes with?
Catherine D. Magbanowa.
Were you on the wire in this case, Ms. Adelson?
No.
So when the bump happened, are you familiar with the event I'm referencing as the bump?
I am now.
When law enforcement approached your mother on the street and handed her a piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay, when that occurred, who did your mother call?
I don't know.
Not you, right?
Not me.
Okay. And once your brother found out about the bump, did he call you about it?
No.
Who did he call?
I don't know.
Well, you listened to the calls to authenticate the voices, didn't you?
Just to hear the voices, not to hear the content of the calls.
Okay. And the voices were your brother's voice, right?
But I listened to the calls just to hear who was on them, so I don't know what content they're referencing.
I heard your answer. My question to you now is, your brother's voice was on the calls.
He was on some of the calls I listened to.
Your mother's voice was on the calls.
She was on some of the calls I listened to.
Did you have any secret meetings with your brother post bump that happened in South Florida?
No.
You were asked about Jeffrey Lacasse and the way that your relationship ended. What is OkCupid?
OkCupid is a dating website.
Were you on that dating website?
I was.
Were you on that dating website at the time that you were dating Mr. Lacasse?
No, I wasn't.
And were you speaking, so I guess if you weren't on it, you weren't speaking to multiple men from the website during the time you were dating Mr. Lacasse. And I'll remind you that you provided your phone in this case and it was cell-brighted, downloaded.
Objection, argument.
Artists often say their work isn't about them. Writers insist their characters aren't self-portraits. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes fiction reveals more truth than testimony ever could. Wendi Adelson wrote a book called This Is Our Story, published in 2011, 3 years before Dan Markel's passing. The main character is a lawyer named Lily who feels trapped in a small Florida town because of her husband's career. She wants to leave. She wants to be closer to family. But she's stuck. Sound familiar? Prosecutors found the parallels between Lily and Wendi impossible to ignore. Both lawyers, both in Florida, both feeling constrained by their husband's choices, both longing for a different life. When questioned about this in court, Wendi insisted the character wasn't based on her. She claimed Lily was inspired by a friend. She noted differences between the fictional narrative and her real life. She downplayed any autobiographical elements. But here's what's fascinating. In the book's afterword, Wendi herself wrote that the story had much, but not all, in common with her own experiences. She acknowledged a personal connection to the narrative, even while later denying it in testimony. Why does this matter? Because fiction allows people to tell truths they can't or won't tell directly. It provides distance, plausible deniability, the ability to explore thoughts and feelings without owning them completely. And in Wendi's book, the theme of being trapped, of wanting escape, of feeling controlled by circumstances beyond her control, runs throughout. These weren't abstract themes. These are the exact emotions that, according to prosecutors, motivated the plot against Dan Markel. The custody battle, the denied relocation request, the feeling of being stuck in Tallahassee when all she wanted was to be in South Florida with her family. Lily's fictional predicament mirrored Wendi's real one almost exactly. Could this be coincidence? Absolutely. Authors draw from their experiences all the time without those experiences predicting future actions. But when the fictional problem and the real-world solution align so dramatically, when the character's desire for escape parallels the circumstances that investigators believe motivated harm, the book becomes more than just a novel. It becomes a window into someone's state of mind years before tragedy struck. Wendi's book didn't confess to anything, but it revealed something perhaps more important. That years before Dan Markel's passing, the fundamental problem, the core tension, the sense of being trapped already existed in her mind. And in fiction, she could write an ending. In reality, someone else wrote it for her. July 18th, 2014, 11:41 a.m. A neighbor hears gunshots, sees a car leaving, makes a call that would launch a decade-long investigation. This is that call.
911, what's the address of your emergency case then? Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We heard and looked in, the garage door was up, and I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out, and I came back over, and his driver's side window is shattered, and he's battered and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him or if he shot himself or what. I don't know. He didn't send an ambulance in a hurry. An EMT. He's still alive. He's moving.
Okay, what's going on with him?
I don't know. The driver's side window is all bashed in, and he's got blood all over his head. He's not responding to me. I think you need to hurry.
Yeah, I'm going to get him on the way to you. I just want to ask you a few questions, okay?
Go ahead, but send them as you're asking.
Yes, sir. They're already on the way, okay? Are you with him now?
Very good. I'm standing right outside the garage door.
Can you tell me how old he is?
I don't know. He looks like maybe 35 or 40.
Hang on 1 second for me, okay?
Okay.
All right, sir. I apologize about that. What was how old is the patient again? I'm sorry.
I can't tell. He looks maybe 35 or 40. I don't know.
Okay. And is he awake?
He's just moving his head around, but he's not responding. I've called his name, asked what's going on, or not called his name, but asked him what's happening. He's not responding to that, but his head's kind of rolling around.
Okay. Is he conscious?
Well, I can't tell.
Okay. Is he breathing?
I can't tell that. I'm assuming he's breathing if he's moving his head around.
Did you ever hear him talk or anything?
No.
Okay. You said he's sitting in the car, right?
Correct, in the driver's seat.
Okay. Where
Driver's
exactly is he? In the driver's seat? You know.
In the driver's seat.
Is he in the garage or?
In the garage.
Okay. Can you direct the emergency crews to him, sir?
Sure.
Okay. All right, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Just stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Okay.
If it's safe to do so, see if he is conscious and breathing or moving at all, okay?
It's not safe for me to do. I don't want to put my hand in here.
Okay. Well, help's on the way.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be standing by. And I've heard about break-ins in the area, and so I decided to walk over and take a look. And the garage door was up and asked him what was happening. And then I saw the window was shattered, and he's got blood. I'm going to be over here waiting for the EMT, honey. Okay, go ahead, but just tell the kids to hold on inside. They're okay. But tell them I'm out here.
All right, just stay on the line with me for now, okay, sir?
Okay,
I got him on the way to you.
Very good. I'm standing at the street, so if I see him coming down the street, I can direct him right in.
So he won't respond to you at all?
Not to me.
Holler at him or anything?
Yeah, he didn't respond, but his head kind of moving around.
Okay.
But I've walked away from the car right now. I'm standing at the street, so.
And he's?
No.
Okay.
He's inside. The window's shattered. The garage door was up.
Okay.
Where is the vehicle dispatched from?
I'm not sure. Give me a second. I'll try to see where they are, okay? Is he still moving around?
I don't know. I'm standing at the street now trying to wait for your vehicle. Did you say you were checking on where it was?
Yes, sir.
Or where it's coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it coming from?
I'm checking.
Okay.
Got several people on the way. Looks like one person's coming from McClay Road.
Okay, well, it may take them a while to get here then. We're close to the hospital, so.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying his head is bloody now?
Yeah, it's been bloody. I mean, it's...
Okay.
The window shattered. I don't know if he's tried to shoot himself. I don't know what the situation is.
And it's the driver's side window, correct?
That's correct. He's still moving around, so he's alive.
Okay. Looks like I should have an officer coming up the roadway.
Okay, well, we need EMT.
Well, the officer's going to be there first. They're not going to come until we figure out what's going on, but they're on the way as well, okay?
He better be if this guy's got a shot living.
Yes, sir. They're on the way as well, okay?
Yeah. It looks like could be the officer now.
See there?
Yeah, he's just coming up right now.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you go, sir, okay?
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
There's something about 911 audio that captures truth in a way video never can. You hear raw reaction, unfiltered emotion, the exact moment someone realizes something terrible has happened. The 911 call from Dan Markel's neighbor is brief but critical. He reports hearing what sounded like gunshots. He describes seeing a light-colored Prius leaving the area. His voice carries urgency but not panic. He's reporting what he witnessed, processing it in real time. This call did two things. First, it established a timeline. The incident occurred mid-morning in a quiet residential neighborhood in broad daylight. This wasn't a crime of opportunity happening under cover of darkness. This was planned, timed, executed with precision. Second, it provided the first concrete lead. A light-colored Prius. It seems like a small detail, but became the thread investigators pulled to unravel the entire conspiracy. That Prius was rented in North Miami, driven to Tallahassee, used in surveillance of Dan Markel's home days before the incident, and then driven back to Miami immediately after. The rental was tracked. The surveillance footage was reviewed. The financial records were examined. And slowly, methodically, investigators built a case connecting that Prius to Sigfrido Garcia and Luis Rivera, to Catherine Magbanua, to Charlie Adelson, to Donna Adelson. But here's what makes the 911 call so powerful in the context of Wendi's story. While a neighbor was calling for help, while Dan Markel was fighting for his life in his garage, Wendi was at home, waiting for a television repair. The same television that would become her alibi. The same television that Charlie had given her as a separation present. The same television connected to the hired individual joke. The timing is almost too perfect. The television broke weeks before. The repair was scheduled for the exact morning of the incident. Wendi was home, establishing her whereabouts, creating a reason to be unavailable, unreachable, occupied. Coincidence? Maybe. But the 911 call captures the moment when coincidence and plan intersect. When careful preparation meets violent execution. When a neighbor's observation threatens to expose what was meant to look random. Listen to that call again. It's not just a report of an incident. It's the sound of a conspiracy beginning to unravel, one detail at a time. In complex conspiracies, the weakest link is often the element you can't control. The hired individuals can be paid. The intermediary can be trusted. The family can maintain their story. But you can't control who's watching, who's listening, who happens to be in the right place at the wrong time. Dan Markel's neighbor was that uncontrollable element. He wasn't part of any plan. He had no connection to the Adelson family. He was simply someone who heard gunshots and looked out his window at the right moment. His testimony became devastating because it was unscripted. He had no reason to lie, no motive to embellish, no stake in the outcome. He simply reported what he saw, a Prius leaving the scene. And that observation, that single detail, became the foundation of the entire investigation. This is why carefully planned crimes often fail. You can control your own actions. You can coordinate with co-conspirators. You can establish alibis and cover stories. But you can't control random witnesses. You can't predict who might be home, who might be looking out their window, who might remember details you hoped would go unnoticed. The neighbor's testimony also did something else. It grounded the case in reality. This was an abstract legal theory. This wasn't circumstantial speculation. This was a human being who witnessed the immediate aftermath of violence and had the presence of mind to call for help and remember what he saw. Every conspiracy relies on silence, on the absence of witnesses, on the hope that no one was paying attention. Dan Markel's neighbor shattered that hope, and in doing so, he gave investigators the first thread that would eventually unravel years of careful planning. What's remarkable about unscripted witnesses is their power to disrupt narrative control. When he could control what she said, Charlie could control his responses. Donna could coordinate the family story, but none of them could control what the neighbor saw or said. And that's why his testimony mattered so much. It was the one piece of evidence no one could shape, spin, or explain away. Sometimes the most revealing testimony isn't what's stated. It's what's avoided. The questions answered indirectly. The names that are never mentioned. The timelines that remain deliberately vague. Throughout Wendi Adelson's testimony across multiple trials, patterns emerged in what she wouldn't discuss. She wouldn't provide details about conversations with Charlie in the weeks before Dan's passing. She couldn't recall specifics about her mother's involvement in the custody dispute. She had convenient memory gaps about who suggested what and when. When pressed on her knowledge of the hired individual consideration, she acknowledged the joke, but couldn't explain why it was top of mind immediately after learning of the incident. When asked about her presence near Dan's home that morning, she provided explanations, but not details. These silences aren't necessarily proof of anything. Memory is imperfect. People forget. Trauma affects recall. But the pattern of what Wendi couldn't or wouldn't remember became notable precisely because her memory was so sharp about other details. She remembered the television breaking. She remembered scheduling the repair. She remembered her movements that morning with remarkable precision. But conversations with family members? Those were fuzzy. Timeline discussions? Those were unclear. This selective precision is what prosecutors found suspicious. When someone remembers alibis perfectly but struggles with questions about knowledge and communication, it suggests those memory gaps might be strategic rather than genuine. There's also what was never said emotionally. Wendy testified in the trial of her own mother. She watched her brother get convicted. She witnessed the family structure collapse under the weight of legal scrutiny. Yet her testimony rarely expressed anger at them for involving her, betrayal for putting her in this position, or genuine confusion about their actions. Instead, she maintained a careful distance. Not too loyal to seem complicit. Not too angry to seem vindictive. Perfectly calibrated emotional neutrality. But that neutrality itself is revealing. When your family is convicted of orchestrating violence that destroyed your children's father, that ruined your life, that made you a permanent figure of suspicion, wouldn't genuine innocence include genuine rage? The absence of that rage, the careful modulation of every emotional response, the strategic gaps in memory, these absences speak as loudly as any direct statement. What Wendy never said might ultimately be more important than anything she testified to. Because silence, when it's selective and strategic, becomes its own form of communication. Here's what makes the Wendi Adelson case so endlessly fascinating. She controlled the narrative better than anyone else involved. She testified in every trial. She cooperated with investigators. She maintained her composure. She never contradicted herself in ways that could be prosecuted. And yet, despite all that control, she couldn't control what her testimony revealed. She couldn't control how her repeated denials sounded less convincing each time. She couldn't control how her memory gaps formed patterns. She couldn't control how her emotional responses seemed practiced rather than spontaneous. She couldn't control how her careful answers created more questions than they resolved. This is the paradox of over-control. When someone manages every aspect of their presentation so carefully, the management itself becomes visible. The performance becomes apparent. The calculation shows through. Wendy succeeded in avoiding prosecution. She maintained her freedom while 5 others, including her own mother and brother, received life sentences or lengthy prison terms. By any measure, she won the legal battle. But she lost something else. She lost the benefit of doubt. She lost the presumption of innocence in the court of public opinion. She lost the ability to ever be seen as simply a victim of her family's choices rather than a potential participant in them. Every trial generated new scrutiny. Every testimony created new questions. Every denial seemed to require another explanation. And the cumulative effect of all that careful control was to make her seem less credible, not more. The question that haunts this case isn't whether Wendi Adelson could be prosecuted. Prosecutors made the strategic decision that they couldn't or wouldn't pursue charges. The question is whether she should have been. Whether justice was served by protecting her in exchange for her testimony. Whether the person who arguably had the most to gain from Dan Markel's passing should have faced consequences rather than immunity. These aren't questions with clear answers. They're questions about how we balance strategic prosecution against comprehensive justice. About whether closing some cases justifies leaving others open. About what we're willing to accept in pursuit of convictions. Wendi Adelson controlled every word she spoke in court. But she couldn't control what those words, in their totality, suggested about her role in a tragedy that destroyed multiple lives, including quite possibly her own. 5 people have been convicted in Dan Markel's passing. The individuals who carried out the act. The intermediary who connected them to the family. The brother who allegedly coordinated the plan. The mother who allegedly funded and orchestrated it. But the case file on Wendi Adelson remains open in a different way. Not legally. She has immunity. She won't be charged. That door is closed. But in every other sense, the questions persist. What did she know? What did she know it? What did she communicate to her family? What role, if any, did she play in the events that led to her ex-husband being shot in his own garage? These questions matter because this case is about more than one crime. It's about how families operate, how loyalty becomes complicity, how intelligence can be used as both tool and weapon, how someone can be present in every significant moment of a conspiracy without ever being provably guilty of conspiracy itself. It's about the space between legal innocence and actual innocence, the difference between what can be proven and what might be true. Wendi Adelson's testimony across multiple trials created a record. Thousands of pages of statements, answers, denials, explanations. And somewhere in that record, between the words and beneath them, the truth exists. Whether we can ever access it fully is another question entirely. What we can say with certainty is this. A devoted father was taken from his children in an act of calculated violence. A family coordinated to make that violence happen. Money changed hands. Plans were made. Alibis were established. And at the center of it all, the person whose life improved most dramatically when Dan Markel was no longer alive continues to maintain she knew nothing about how or why that happened. You've heard the testimony. You've seen the patterns. You've witnessed the performance of innocence across years of legal proceedings. Now you have to decide, does intelligence clarify the truth, or does it help hide it? That's the question Wendi Adelson's story forces us to confront. And it's a question that might never be definitively answered. This has been Dark Trail Files. If this deep dive into one of the most complex criminal cases of our time kept you engaged, if it made you question everything you thought you understood about truth and testimony, then subscribe now. Because we're just getting started. There are more cases to explore, more patterns to uncover, more uncomfortable questions to ask. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us as we continue to examine the cases where the truth hides in plain sight. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and never stop questioning. This is Dark Trail Files, signing off.